Good evening and welcome to Superintendent's Corner. My name is Richard Safier, and this show is an opportunity to talk about the issues, the successes, and the challenges to the Gloucester Public School District, and more importantly, to talk to the people who are behind all of those issues and who are taking them on. Tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with one of the guidance department members at the O'Malley Innovation Middle School, Miss Allison Cousins. Good evening.
Hello.
And welcome for coming on board the show.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you. I'm wondering whether or not, outside of the principal, you might be the first person, staff member, first teacher actually, that I've had on the show from the O'Malley, which is my bad. I think we need to get more people from the middle school. So by way of introduction, could you tell us just a little bit about yourself and your background?
Absolutely. So I've been a guidance counselor at O'Malley School now this is my third year. I've been a guidance counselor for 1 year before. I was at O'Malley. I started at Pentucket Middle School. Up in West Newbury. I love Gloucester and I love O'Malley. I've lived here for 5 years now. I am not originally from Gloucester. I'm originally from Central Mass out in Leominster, which if anyone's ever heard of it, about an hour and 15 from here. But I moved to Gloucester with my fiance about 5 years ago, and I was lucky that the position opened up at O'Malley, and I was able to jump in the guidance staff there. So I absolutely love the community, and I'm happy to be here. As well as being a guidance counselor, I also run the after-school program at O'Malley. This is my second year doing that, and I coach basketball and softball in Gloucester. So I've been with the softball program for 5 years now, and with the basketball program for 3 years. So I feel like I've really jumped in to Gloucester.
Absolutely immersed in the community.
Yeah, I feel like I've lived here my whole life, so it's nice to be here.
Terrific, great. So again, as part of the guidance department at O'Malley, there are 3 of you and about 670, 680 students approximately. So it's a pretty good size. And my understanding is that the guidance counselors also loop with the various grades. So perhaps explain what looping is and why that's a good idea.
So we stay with the kids for 3 years. So this is now my 3rd year with this group of children. So
grade 8, obviously.
Grade 8, obviously, this year. So I was lucky when I started. I jumped in with my 6th graders. So I think that was really nice to start off to be with the 6th grade class. I get to know the kids really well. It's incredible. I feel like all 240 of them, I know something about all of them, which I thought at first, I'm never going to remember all these kids' names, but I could tell you one thing about every single one of the kids.
Really.
So
that's really important to get to know the kids and that they know that you know them and
absolutely
create that kind of intimacy in the school. Way back when I was an assistant principal, and the running commentary was always that when you loop and you stay with the class for 3 years or 4 years in my case, the good news is that for the kids that are most challenging, you get a chance to really know them over the course of the 4 years. And the bad news is that you get to know the same students over the course of the 4 years as well. So they can be trying and challenging, but also if you can make some headway with them and they can walk across the graduation line and out into the world, then we've had some small measure of success. And obviously the middle school is the feeder responsible for making that happen as well. You play a very large role with respect to student services, and you're part of the student services team. So what's the purpose of the SST, and how does it function?
Yeah, so our student services team, we're kind of the nucleus of the school, and we kind of keep everything in order. So sometimes people say, what does a guidance counselor do on a daily basis, or what does a
guidance counselor do on a daily basis?
What doesn't a guidance counselor do on a daily basis? But we really keep everything moving, keep everything working, and make sure that all the cases are being managed for all the kids. So we coordinate with outside services a lot. If a student's struggling, we work to get them on an IEP or on a 504. We work with the family if there's something going on in the outside world. We connect them to after-school support, so if they need to get involved in a sport after school. I've sat there and registered kids for Little League before, and I've called, the Department of Social Services. Unfortunately, we work with them a lot too, but we really keep the case going for a lot of the kids. So sometimes I can be the social chair, and sometimes I can be like just another parent for them at school too. So
I've had an opportunity
really
to sit in on a couple of those meetings. This is part of my making the rounds and stuff, and one of the things I'm struck by is how disciplined the team is. By disciplined, I mean that everybody brings something to the table. Guidance has some input about a child's particular situation. The school psychologist, the adjustment counselors, the nurses, the administrators, and it truly is a team effort in order to develop a comprehensive sense of where that child is at and what services, what resources exist within the school, and what outreach is necessary to try to place the student in the best situation possible.
Yeah, and we also look at global issues too. You know, when we decided to get rid of cell phones at the middle school and make kids leave them in their locker or turn them off all day, that came from the student services team. So some of those global issues, it's good to have everyone's input into.
Right.
So we meet every Tuesday morning and
At 9:30?
At 9:30, and
yeah.
that's very important to
Yeah.
the structure of the school, I gotta say. Those Tuesday meetings are crucial.
Right. Restricting student cell phone use. Weren't you concerned about childhood trauma?
Yes, a little bit, still am, but that's okay.
Don't take away my phones, whatever you do. Good. The whole issue of emotional health, especially in the all across the spectrum, grades K through 12, but the middle school years are particularly turbulent for students, and good emotional health is really important. And I know that the guidance counselors and the others that you spoke of, that there are certain techniques, certain strategies on a daily basis that you work with students. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yep. So oftentimes we meet with kids individually or we meet with kids in groups. We certainly do run social groups. We've done boys groups and girls groups and different group counseling for kids going through divorce or parents with a substance abuse, all these different types of things that we work with kids on. That individual counseling, getting to know the kids for 3 years. I know now how to talk with a lot of the kids that I have learned over the 3 years. So my strategy with all those kids is different. We go into the classrooms and we do social emotional lessons as well. We follow a curriculum called Second Step. So we try to get into the classroom 4 times a year. So we'll pick a subject, we'll say social studies, I'm taking over your class for the day. And then we'll do it with every single house. So it's a big undertaking to go into the classroom like that, having 10 different classrooms of kids. So
Right.
really we're teaching the same lesson 10 times, which can be challenging to do that too. But it's important that we're getting that social emotional curriculum to all the kids, not just the ones that need to speak to the guidance counselor regularly.
Right.
So we really try to stick to that and we have a curriculum for 6th grade, one for 7th, and one for 8th. And that's something we've really tried to work with over the past 3 years to get that cohesive
Curriculum going.
and
The,
to get it made.
So the guidance counselors are going in 4 times a year into each class and each grade to talk about a lot of these social emotional things and about managing emotions, anxieties, and transitions from grade 5 to grade 6 or grade 8 to grade 9. Are there ways, those are like booster shots. And then in between those meetings, there's everyday life for these kids on a daily basis. Of course, the school can rely upon the student service team and those kinds of issues, but are there ways in which the teachers in the classroom are helping to promote the very same kinds of ways of dealing with every day for students? How are they following up so that you're not just going in, speaking, and then it's not really brought up again until the next time you go?
So what's been helpful for us is having the teachers in the classroom with us when we're doing those social emotional lessons. I think it's really valuable when the math teacher stays the day that I do my social emotional lesson. They can kind of pick up on how I'm talking with the kids and how I'm working with them. We also have student team meetings with the teachers every 6-day cycle. So every 6 days I'm meeting with Ocean House and with Beach House and with Anchor House to talk about their kids too. So they can come to me and say, hey, this kid's having an issue, what can I do to work with him? We can bring the kid into that meeting and open up conversation that way too. So those meetings are crucial. It's really that time when we get to work together and talk about the kids is really helpful.
Right, that's great, that's great. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and as superintendent, has to do with teachers and addressing the social emotional issues while at the same time maintaining what needs to be done in the classroom as well. And in particular, I'm thinking about when Jessica Minahan came to the middle school, and I was under the impression that many of the staff were quite impressed with what she had to say. And what little bit I remember of what she had to say had so much to do with understanding what the underlying concerns are for the child, and what the stressors and the anxieties are, and what the trigger points are, and the extent to which teachers can become more proactive, so that if Johnny is going to have a difficult day or a difficult episode, there are ways of communicating before it reaches a point where it's going to be disrupting the class and stuff.
Right.
This is my long-winded way of saying I'd like to see if we can begin to extend that professional development more systematically, not only to the middle school, but across the district, so that teachers themselves become as attuned to that kind of sensitivity, which is really part and parcel of what guidance counselors are trained for, and social workers and adjustment counselors, and that they're able to do it, as I said before, in ways that don't necessarily interfere with the instructional piece that has to take place as well.
Yeah, we have to get that curriculum taught, but like you said, there's a way to teach to every different kid in that trauma-informed schools and all that different approach to use. I recently went to the MASCA conference, the Massachusetts Annual School Counselor.
Ah, thank you.
So, yes.
I was looking for a G for guidance.
No, school counselor. And I actually did a whole training on trauma-informed schools and how to work with teachers to better teach some of these kids that are struggling in the outside world. So that's definitely something that we think about in the guidance department a lot.
Excellent. So we do have a new principal coming in very, very soon. And this may be a good opportunity to have that conversation, but also to share it with perhaps the assistant superintendent, with myself, so that we might be in a position to help put some resources behind that. Talking about it is not the same as giving teachers an opportunity to actually do it and implement it in the classroom.
And to learn those strategies too. It's really a teaching style. So.
And I'm belaboring the point a little bit, but there seems to be, over the last few years, everywhere, not just in the Gloucester Public Schools, but there is an uptick in social concerns. In fact, I reported out to the school committee last night, the American Journal of Psychiatry had a research that says that in the elementary schools, teacher and staff interventions and mental health services has a very profound positive effect on student development, and that 30 to 40% of all students who go to schools in the United States will be diagnosed with some form of mental health issue by the time they turn adolescent. So there's a lot of concern out there, and if the kids don't have their house in order, it's very difficult for them to actually learn. So it's a lot that we have to do. There are circumstances, of course, where we have some crises, and there is the need for crisis intervention services, and that's part of what you as a guidance counselor, as a school counselor, and as a social service person does. Can you just talk to those a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of what I do too is working with the outside therapists for a lot of my students. So a great deal of them do seek counseling services outside of school. So working with those counselors to make sure we're implementing the same strategies and using the same approach, putting whatever accommodations in place in the classroom that we need. So we definitely work with those outside providers. Department of Social Services, obviously, we do work with them too a lot. We work with the court system if we need it. We have an awesome attendance supervisor, Christina Clem, who we work with very closely. She's really an integral part of working with the guidance staff as well, if we need to get any student to that level of care. But checking in with those outside providers and making referrals if we feel like a student does need more than just school supports. Making referrals to Leahy and Children's Friend. We work with them quite a bit. So
when you say, as you did before we came on air, that you had a busy day, it probably includes a number of the things that we're talking about. Let's talk a little bit about student transitions, meaning that there are students who are now going to be coming up from grade 5 to grade 6, and there are some students who are going to be going from grade 8 to grade 9. So how does the middle school help students make these transitions? And your role as well, of course.
And this year especially is a very busy year for me because I'm kind of on both ends of it.
That's right.
So I'm moving my kids up to 9th grade and I'm receiving the 5th graders as well. So this year for me is especially busy. But working with the high school, I have a meeting scheduled to go over all the students with them. So I'm going to sit down with the principal, the assistant principal, and the dean of students at the high school, as well as Laura Carlson, the head of guidance from Gloucester High, to talk about all the different kids. So that's going to be probably a very long meeting, but to go over any kids that are in need.
Right. There is a fine line, and I've heard and this has nothing to do with your work or Gloucester per se. It actually goes back to when I was principal elsewhere. But there are teachers at the high school who may want to hear certain particulars about a student's needs, but they don't want to hear that a child has been pegged as a troublemaker or something along those lines, that they want to be in a position to make their own minds up about how a student behaves and participates in class. And then there's also hopefully a growth spurt between 8th over the summer into 9th grade. So is there a certain line between explaining what students' needs are versus labeling a child?
Absolutely. You don't want to label anyone. I think you want to give strategies to work with them and really kind of turn it into a positive. Say, hey, he may have struggled here, but this is what worked and this is what helped. So this is what you can do proactively at the high school to make things better. You know, moving the kids from 5th grade to 6th grade, that's what we ask for from the 5th grade teachers. You know, what recommendations do you have for us in the classroom? Who are some good partners that we can put them with? We want to make it a positive transition. So every 5th grader that's incoming to O'Malley, we try to buddy them up with someone in their homeroom that they know and that they're comfortable with, which is hard to do because there's going to be about 250 kids coming up. So that's a lot of pairs that we need to make, but it's worth it to make sure everyone's comfortable and in a good working space.
So we have a pretty good sized class coming in from grade 5?
Yes.
Yeah, good. That's good to hear. I haven't really checked those numbers, and we'll have to see.
We have move-up day coming up soon, too. So all the 5th graders will be coming up for move-up day, and they'll spend some time with the 6th grade teachers, which will be a nice transition for them.
Laying down the law.
Yes. Welcome.
Welcome is more like it, of course. At a school level, I mean, you were talking a lot about the role of a school counselor, talking about the student services team and so on and so forth. But these levels, these layers of care, which is really what it is, extends to an entire school mindset, a gestalt, to use a fancy word. And specifically, I'm talking about the sales program, which I can never memorize, so I have it written here, and it stands for Service, Acceptance, Integrity, Leadership, and Success. So please tell us about sales and your role. So
my fellow guidance counselors, Mary White and Paula Gray, were part of the sales crew that developed the sales acronym and the whole kind of mindset that we adapt as students and faculty. So we have a pledge, the sales pledge, that's posted in every classroom. At the beginning of the year, we take time to have every student in the classroom sign the pledge. So that's kind of a nice thing. We do 3 sales assemblies every year, which the guidance counselors plan. So we try to get in tune with what the students want and need. We've had local performers come in and sing positive songs before. We've had someone come in and talk about anxiety. But always the end of year assembly is kind of a pep rally for the kids.
Is that coming up?
That's coming up. That's the beginning of June, yep. So we have Rick Dowsett from the Y. He comes in and he MCs for us, which is wonderful.
Great personality.
Yes. And he
Big
works.
personality.
Yes. And he actually helped develop sales too. This was before my time at O'Malley, but he helped create sales. But he gives away an award for perfect attendance. And we honor the kids in the school that did the most community service. So we have a way for them to log hours online, which we created last year, which is really nice. So we honor those kids and we honor anyone that has shown sales values throughout the year. In the past, we've had kids create sales skits, so they perform in front of the whole student body, a skit about each letter in sales, which has been really nice. We had a whole sales assembly on diversity before, where we had a parade of flags come up to the front of the auditorium. So we really try to celebrate all those values within the school and try to make it fresh every single time, with the end of the year always being the pep rally and kind of the, look what we did, you guys are awesome. So it's really nice, and it's something for the kids to hold on to. They know O'Malley sales, they know what it is and they get it. Right.
It, I think it not only teaches them respect for each other, but also respect for themselves as well, which should be a win-win situation.
We also have an after-school group, which is the sales crew, which is kind of like a little play on the nautical life. And they plan the dances, and they plan the talent show, and they work with the lip dub. So all that kind of fun stuff, the sales crew is responsible for.
Is that CREW or CRU?
CREW. It should be CRU probably.
Okay, good. So it gives us a good segue into the after-school program, the O'Malley Academy. And Can you describe a little more fully how that came into being?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started with the program 2 years ago, but the year before that was the first year we got funding through the Department of Education, the 21st Century Grant, which funds lots of schools across the state for their after-school programs. Before that, we didn't really have anything for the kids, from my understanding.
I should interrupt and say that if I'm not mistaken, that was a $300,000 grant.
Yes.
For over 3 years.
Over 3 years, yeah.
Was that the first grant, or did we get a second one?
We're on the second one right now.
Right.
So part of the renewal process we went through last year, we had visits from the Department of Ed. We had to submit a lot of paperwork and a lot of proof and evidence that the program was successful, and we were able to get funding for another 3 years. So this was one of 3.
Right. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I do want to add that the second grant came from a different funding source. That the first one was, for lack of a better term, the standard grant that other districts received. But the second grant came from a funding source referred to as a model program.
Yes, exemplary.
Exemplary, which means that the state itself is not only granting the funding a second time, but recognized the work that's being done by O'Malley and by yourself, and that you have in fact created a model program that others across the state can look to and say, well, that's what these after-school programs should look like.
Absolutely. So right now we serve about 1/3 of the school with the after-school program. We're hoping, obviously, every year to serve more kids. We try to spread the money as much as we can and create the most programs and the most bang for our buck to get all the kids involved in whatever they're interested in. And that also includes summer programming, which is encompassed in the grant as well. So a portion of the grant goes to summer programming, which is going to be sent out to all parents soon. But we have a robotics camp that goes for 5 weeks.
For the summer?
For the summer. We actually applied to be part of Zero Robotics, which is funded through MIT. So we were part of the program last year, and we got to live stream with astronauts that were on the space station. So it's a very cool program. We're doing that again this summer, which is awesome, and free to all O'Malley students, even incoming 6th graders. We have drama camps that are funded through the summer grant, and we have a new camp this summer that's going to be run by 2 ELA teachers using the green screen to put poetry to life. So we have a very exciting summer coming up too, all free for the kids, which is
that's great.
Really awesome.
Right. So you've described some of the summer stuff, but I understand that there are about 18 clubs that are functioning over the course of the school year as well.
Yes.
So can you describe a few of those?
Yeah. So our most popular one is Drama Club, which a lot of people have probably seen our productions or read about us in the newspaper. We did Shrek Junior this year, which was a huge success. We put the show on 6 times. We have roughly 80 kids.
In spite of the snow.
Yes. Had a couple of snow dates, but we got them all in there.
Right.
We're doing another show actually tonight, which is very exciting, our spring musical review. So that's a very popular club. We also have video journalism, which is something I really want to move forward and even develop more over the course of the next few years. The goal is to have an after-school program that is O'Malley TV, which live streams the morning announcements. Which hasn't, to my understanding, the announcements haven't been live for about maybe 10 years now.
So time to bring it back.
It's time to bring it back. We have the technology. We have a green screen room that we've worked really hard to create. We have people that want to get it going and want to fund the program and take it on. So that's something that's really exciting coming down the line. We have a robotics club, which is very popular. A new addition.
Who teaches the robotics, by the way?
Roger Davis.
Oh, really?
Who is a retired teacher now, but this is his now retirement job. So he teaches 2 after-school programs, and he does the summer program as well. He's a big asset for us.
He'll be just for the record. He'll be coming in to move the aquaponics, which was originally for 1 grade, but now it's for grade 7 for next year. So it physically needs to be relocated. The funding was granted by the Gloucester Education Foundation and approved last night formally by the school committee. So that should happen.
Very cool. Yeah, Rogers and his wife Lorraine teaches coding in the after-school program, so the Davises are a huge part of it. The STEM Club got developed this year. We were very happy about. We actually just found out today that the STEM Club is going to be going to Fenway Park for STEM Day. I didn't even know Fenway had a STEM Day, but we've been invited. So we're going to be seeing a day game, a 1 o'clock game, and before the game we're going to hear from an astronaut. they're going to have a bunch of different displays with local scientists right at Fenway Park.
That's pretty cool.
So that club has really taken off. Amy Donnelly has done an amazing, fantastic job. So we're really happy to have the sciences involved and get that.
Phew, it's a ton.
It's a
Now
lot.
the festival presentation tonight with the drama-rama and the music and everything else, that is to get some matching funds.
Yep.
To that goes with the grant, correct?
Yeah, so we're responsible at O'Malley School personally for raising $5,000 a year. We do this through various different fundraisers. This one tonight being a big portion of it. We get all the ticket sales from the spring show. We do other things throughout the year. We did coupon books before. We do ask for some donations throughout the year if people can donate. We do offer free after-school programming for the entire year. So we say if a family has money they can donate our way, we will take it because we definitely need to keep the program going and need to get that match every year. And we're lucky that the Gloucester Ed Foundation has donated a lot of money to the program too and is a big funder for us. So thank you to them.
Right. So in addition to all of these things, you're also a coach.
Yes.
And you're coaching at the high school level.
Yep.
And you coach 2 sports.
Yes.
And you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I actually played softball in college. That's my number one passion is really athletics.
First baseman?
Pitcher.
Pitcher.
Okay. Yes. Hold 4 records at Fitchburg State if anyone wants to look them up. But so that's actually why I moved to Gloucester, because my fiance was the catcher of the baseball team, and that's how we met, because he used to catch for me. So so athletics is a huge part of my life. I love working with the softball program, and I played basketball my whole life as well. So I was lucky that they asked me to coach basketball and get involved with that too, because I just love competition, and it's fun for me to stay involved with that. So. Good. So
you do sleep?
Oh, sometimes.
Sometimes, because it sounds like you have an extraordinary schedule. Well, the work that you do, the extent, the quality, the connections, the contacts that you make with the students, your ability to coordinate with your peers, you're a star, and the work that you do is deeply appreciated, and it makes learning and living and growing in Gloucester that much better for our kids. So I want to thank you for all the work that you do and the work that your colleagues do as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And for this evening show, I'd like to say thank you and good night.